What's up, Big Bear Nation, and welcome back to the homestead. So today was Butcher Day, and one of many butcher days. And I know quite a few of you have already been through at least one butcher so far this summer. And you're probably like me, after you're done, you're exhausted and you're brainstorming on what you could do differently for the next time. So this video today, I'm going to show you what we've done over the years to kind of make Butcher Day go a little bit more smoothly. So the first thing I want to talk about is setup. You want to set yourself up to succeed. And what we have found is that if we kind of make it like a circle or a square in order of progression, it works best. So we usually start right here at our killing station. We have the medium-sized kill cones, which I would recommend maybe going down to the small if you're only going to be doing Cornish cross or some kind of meat bird like that. If you're going to go into doing turkeys and ducks, the medium or the large would be good. But we start at the kill station with the kill cones. Now we also make sure that we have buckets placed up underneath each cone to catch anything that's coming down so that we don't get it all over our work area. Now the next step after we're done with the kill station is to go over to where we're going to scald. Now some people have scalders, some people have, you know, a turkey fryer, and they take the bucket and put water in it and then use the propane to be able to heat it up. We've done all of that, and I'm going to tell you, we have had absolutely no luck with propane. At the end of the day, we know how to start a fire, we know how to keep it going, and we know how to regulate water temperature based off of that. So we have our just pot of water with a fire going to bring it up to the 145 that you need. Now the next station that we go to is over here with our plucker, okay? So we keep the water running while we're going because we're learning that if we get about 3 or 4 birds going at a time, we can get them all dunked, put them in here, and they seem to do better plucking if we have more than 1 bird in here at a time. Now, this thing it pulls a lot of electricity, and we've found that unless you have a heavy duty extension cord, it's going to be hard to pull the power. So we actually have our generator over here to make sure that we have adequate power to pull the electricity for this plucker. Then our final station is right here where we work at the table. So once it comes from the plucker, they bring them over here to me, and this is where I butcher. And right next to it we have the cooler. Our cooler has ice and water and it's ready to go. Okay, so let's talk tools. Obviously you're gonna need a knife, right? But there's so much more to butchering than just that. The very first thing that I would suggest is investing in a kill cone. We've tried everything from tying them by their legs, hanging them upside down with string. We've used traffic cones. We've used old tin that we have where we tried to, you know, secure it and zip it into a piece of wood. It's not worth the aggravation or the headache for what these things cost. So get yourself either a small, if you're just going to be doing meat birds and you're not going to be growing out these big, huge dinosaurs, you can stand to use the small. We have the medium ones, and they're actually a little big for our birds because there have been several times where as we're dispatching them and they're starting to drip, they will actually like try to fly up out of the cone, and you really don't want that, trust me. So the next thing would be a bucket. Make sure that you have a bucket up underneath your cones to catch all of the blood, because you really don't necessarily want that dripping everywhere that you're working. I don't like stepping in it and then tracking it all over the place. So we keep a bucket. We also use that for when we're fertilizing in our garden and stuff. You can use that as part of a fertilizer. Now the next thing is a knife. Now I have several knives we've acquired over the years, but what I have found is it's not really necessarily the knife, as much as it is its ability to hold a sharp edge. Make sure that before you start butchering, you start with a sharp knife. And keep your stone close by, because you may have to sharpen it mid-cycle. Now, the next thing, obviously make sure you have a pot to be able to to scald your birds in. You can get one of those meat thermometers or candy thermometers that you can hang on the side of your water to be able to measure the temperature. But what I've found is when it's so close to the edge, sometimes you don't get a really good read. So because I'm a soaper, I already have a heat gun or a infrared thermometer. I call it a heat gun. But you go ahead and you can just shoot that straight on the surface of the water and you'll know exactly what temperature you're at. You need to be at about 145. So this is really good about making sure you know exactly what temperature you're at. And again, it's not that much more, and you can use it for more than one thing. Now, your next thing that I promise you will make your life easier is a plucker. Now, some people build theirs. Our very first time, we didn't pluck, we skinned, and it was a chore. And then when we went to cook them, we really wish we had somehow figured out how to save the skin. But we also bought the parts to make our own plucker. And while that worked for a little while, we never had a motor that was strong enough for what kind of power it needed to be able to toss that bird around to get them plucked perfectly. So we ended up going with a easy plucker that we ordered from CC Only on the recommendation from Ben at VW Family Farms. And I will tell you, it was probably one of the best things we've ever invested in, because it will pluck a bird in about 5 seconds. It's done. And if you've ever had to try and hand pluck a bird or skin a bird, you'll realize very quickly that this thing is worth its weight in gold. Now, one of the final things that we have found that we use that makes life so much easier, and I know this sounds really funny, but it's nitrile gloves. So we started buying these just for first aid. And one day I was processing and I was like, you know what, go get me some gloves. And I think it was because I had maybe a cut on my finger and I wanted to protect them. But what I have found is that these actually give you a good grip on the bird when you're eviscerating. And when you're inside the bird and you're pulling everything out, you get a really good grip when you have nitrile gloves on. So definitely invest in a small box of those. They are not expensive, but again, worth the money to be able to make it easier for you to eviscerate. Now, the final things are just a couple of specialty tools that are not necessary, but I will tell you that they make life so much easier. One is a very good sharp pair of poultry shears. Not kitchen shears that you get with your knife set. These are specifically poultry shears. Now, we have used these to cut wings. We have used these to cut feet off, necks off. We've used this for everything. And they're over a year old and they're just as sharp today as they were a year ago. I got these from McMurray. They have a little butchering kit and I believe these come with it. I'll put a link in the description below for that. And then another thing is this rib scraper. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, it reminded me of a bear trap. I was like, wow, that thing is vicious looking. But what I found is, again, while this is not necessary, it definitely makes life easier, because there are times when your bird's opening is not big enough to be able to get, especially for men. It's hard for a man to get his hand inside there to clean everything out, get inside that rib cage. This right here reaches inside the bird and you can scrape along the rib cage and it will pull the lung out in one piece. And I've actually done it where I can get both sides and pull it out together. So again, not necessary, but definitely makes life easier. So one more thing worth mentioning, and this is not so much a tool, but a couple of things to keep in mind while you're working. We have a table that we use. Now, while I would love to have a stainless steel table, we don't have that in the budget yet. So we use a plastic table, but we make sure after every processing day that we hit it with Clorox and we sanitize it really good. The table itself is normally level, right? Well, what we do is we take a couple of small pieces of cinder block and we raise one side up so that the table is slightly angled. And then we have a hose that has an attachment to it, a spray nozzle, and we put it at the end that's highest. And as we're butchering, we let that water run at a very slow rate, and it keeps our workstation free from debris. As we're cleaning out guts and we've got blood everywhere, that water will just naturally sweep down because of gravity, and it'll go off the edge of the table. Now, we used to just take a hose and we would hose clamp. We had like those little clamps, and we would clamp it to the side of the table. But now we actually have a attachment, you know, a nozzle, and it's one of those ones that looks almost like a fireman's hose. So it's got like the lever that goes forward and back, and so you can control the intensity of the water. So we have it just very lightly coming down the table, and that keeps everything moving so we don't have to worry about it. Well, that's pretty much it. These are the ways that we do things. I know everybody's got their own way. I would love to hear what you do that you think is different, that helps. We're always open for more suggestions. So go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. Now, if you liked this video about how to make things easier for you on chicken processing, definitely check out this video about the Hori Hori knife. It makes gardening that much easier. Thank you for stopping by the Big Bear Homestead. God bless, and have a nice day.